The gentleman recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Attorney General Lynch, when you appeared last time before this committee, I brought up the case of Darius Stewart. Darius Stewart was a young man, 19 years old, who was shot to death by a Memphis police officer. He was a passenger in a car. The officer stopped the car for a headlight violation and ran a check on the passenger, ended up getting in the back seat. The officer shot him, killed him. Our local prosecutor asked the grand jury to indict for manslaughter, but the grand jury didn't for some reason. I asked the Department of Justice to investigate, and I'm grateful for that. We are eager to know the results of your investigation. We need to know if there are any civil rights violations. Can you please tell us when we might expect any results in that case? I read today in the Times about the Garner case. I know it's difficult, but this case is one that's in Memphis with Darius Stewart.
Yes, thank you for raising this important issue. The matter is still under review, so I'm not able to give you either a result or a timetable at this time, but of course we will work to keep you informed.
Thank you very much. Last week we saw more disturbing videos of police shooting of African Americans, and we saw police officers killed in Dallas, and that was dreadful. The other side has made a point, my friends, to say people should know that nobody's above the law and all people are treated equally. Unfortunately, what we've seen is that African Americans are not treated equally when it comes to deadly force and police officers in this country. And that's a more chilling reality than anything else that's been brought up here today. People's lives have been taken. This is a great problem. Black lives matter. Congressman Lacy Clay and I put forward a bill last year, the Police Training and Independent Review Act, H.R. 2302, to address two of the major issues that we have been identified as necessary to help improve the relationship of police and citizens. The bill would withhold a portion of federal funding unless police are trained on a range of important issues like racial and ethnic bias and cultural diversity. I know the DOJ recently announced it will train all its office agents to recognize implicit bias, so I know you're aware of the need of training. Our bill would also withhold a portion of federal funding unless police shootings that result in a death or injury are investigated and, if necessary, prosecuted independently. Asking a local prosecutor to investigate the same law enforcement agency they work with and to provide them with witnesses is implicitly wrong. Like Caesar's wife, an individual should be a prosecutor beyond the appearance of impropriety. If a prosecutor does everything right, the action can still appear biased. If we're serious about restoring the sense of trust that we need to have with our citizenry, we need to eliminate this conflict of interest. As I know, as you've mentioned, a key part of President Obama's task force on 21st century policing calls for independent prosecutors. Campaign Zero, gaining a lot of credibility, also has called for the passage of this act. Congressman Clay and I have seen a surge of support. We now have 77 co-sponsors. Has been endorsed by as unlikely a team maybe as the NAACP and the Chicago Tribune. Do you think that additional training for police and the use of independent prosecutors would help reduce violence between police and civilians and help restore a sense of trust in law enforcement?
Well, thank you for raising this important issue, Congressman. I think that the issue of the training that we at the Department of Justice provide for law enforcement, as well as the training generated in the field, is of utmost importance. I will tell you that as I have, in fact, traveled the country on my community policing tour, highlighting departments that are working on this very issue, I've seen some outstanding examples, in particular of de-escalation training, using various scenarios to start literally with the mindset of the officer and how they respond to certain situations. I've also been extremely encouraged by seeing law enforcement comment on many of the recent incidents that have been captured on video and talk about how training would or would not relate to those specific incidents. And I've been incredibly heartened by the growing sense of importance this issue has taken on within law enforcement itself. We have seen a number of, as I mentioned, of very, very positive programs involving training. We've seen, as I mentioned, not just the de-escalation, but also training in the issues about the definitions of excessive force, the legal standards for excessive force. I've seen programs that break that down for officers, where we have seen results in those communities.
So do you think training is something additional training will be important?
It is key.
And would independent prosecutors be a good thing?
I believe it depends upon the nature of the office that would be looking into the matter. I believe that you would need individuals who have experience in dealing with complicated cases, who have experience in dealing with forensic evidence, and certainly you'd want those offices, wherever they be located, to have that kind of expertise at their hands as well.
And let me close, Mr. Chairman, with one other fact. I don't know if you're aware, but in Memphis, a group, partially Black Lives Matter, had a protest march on Sunday. They interfered with traffic, made their demonstration on I-40 at the Hernando de Soto Bridge crossing the river. Our interim police director, Rawlings, marched arm in arm with them, saw to it that there was no violence, no arrests, no shootings, no use of force. He showed a kind of policing we need in this country where both the protesters and all the citizenry and the police saw this man as a leader, a hero, and somebody who kept the calm and the peace in Memphis, Tennessee.
Time of the gentleman has expired, but the witness will be permitted to respond if she chooses to do so.
Just to acknowledge, indeed, the strong leadership of the Memphis police chief, which I've seen replicated in departments across the country, including particularly in Dallas.